We are here tonight because Orange County has received a development application for a particular piece of property, and your district commissioner asked us to come out and have a conversation with the community about it. So that's what we're doing. This is a community meeting, if you hadn't figured that out. Hopefully, all of you are here because you received one of these pieces of paper in the mail. If you did not receive one of these in the mail, it means you are not on our standard distribution list. If you heard of it from radio, friends, dreams, however you heard of this, if you aren't on the list, please, it's all the more important that we have you sign in on the sign-in sheet in the back so we can add you to the distribution list and keep you updated as this application goes through the process. So, a couple housekeeping items. Already gone over sign-in sheets. The way this evening is going to work is Mike here is going to go over some just kind of basic concepts of land use, zoning, what exactly it is this applicant is proposing to do on the property, and the process that it goes through. He's going to outline the general review steps and the public hearings of where this is going to go moving forward. The point of tonight is not to make a decision. We are not here to vote, to decide should this project move forward or not. We are here as an information and discussion session to share information with the community of what this development application is and to get some feedback from you all. So, after Mike gives his brief spiel, we're going to let the applicant team go over a little bit more detail of exactly what it is they're proposing. And then we're going to open this up for a formal question and answer session. We do have the room till about 7 o'clock, so we're going to try and get out of here about that time, be respectful of the school staff, let them get home to their families. When we do get to that question and answer session, due to the amount of folks here, what I'm going to do is stand right about in this spot and ask everyone who wants to speak to line up single file. So we got to keep everything orderly and move it along as efficiently as possible. So with that, I will stop rambling and let this guy ramble a little bit.
Hey everybody. So just to go over a few basic pointers. I think most of you are probably aware generally where this is. You got West Lake Butler, just to the west, and then further to the west you have Windermere Elementary Road, and it's kind of right along Lake Butler.
We can't hear you.
Sorry, I will hold it closer to my mouth. So
Yell like he did.
I will try to not yell, but make it a little bit louder. So just going over the future land use. Future land use generally sets kind of the overall use of a property as well as the allowed density of the development. So this property has a future land use of rural settlement 1-to-1, which means they're allowed to do residential uses at a density of 1 unit per acre. Moving over to the zoning, zoning is where you set more specific uses and more specific development standards. So this property is zoned RCE, which is rural country estate, and that allows you to do single-family detached housing at on 1 acre lots, and there's some other standards about setbacks and things like that. What the applicant would like to do is rezone the property from RCE to planned development. The planned development is a negotiated zoning district, so they negotiate things such as their setbacks, their minimum lot sizes, things like that.
Density.
The density is set by the future land use, so that's not changing. They're not proposing to change the density. The density allows them to do up to 1 unit of residential per acre. So I believe that the application that you guys have, or the notice you guys have, said that they were proposing 17 units. I believe that has been changed to 16. Am I right? Yep. So I think based on some wetland calculations and things, the developable acres just come a little bit down. So that actually only allows them to do up to 16 homes on the entire property. So that is not negotiated. That is set, and they're not proposing to change that. So, did that answer your question? Okay. Moving on to kind of just general process. So right now,
So finish that. So it's 1 per acre over there, and as you move into the second one, it's still 1 per acre. That what they're asking for the plan development. So it's currently 1 per acre, and it's future 1 per acre.
Yeah, just to specify, just to kind of go over it again. So currently, they're allowed to do, as far as the density is concerned, they're allowed to do 1 unit per acre. Their current zoning has a standard about lot sizes that says your lots need to be an acre in size, right? That is something they can negotiate with the plan development process. They can't negotiate their density, but they can negotiate
Why
things
is
like.
rural country estates thing? Why the different nomenclature? What-
So,
But I think we're gonna
Yeah, let's-
save some of this stuff for the question and
yeah,
answer.
let's hear it all the answer, let's let Mike move on a little bit, and then we'll
Yeah.
put a pin in that,
We're
sir.
gonna-
As you talk, and we have questions, and by the time we get to the end of this, we'll
I assure you, we will make an effort to get to everyone, sir.
I'm not talking about that, he's asking questions about specific things you want to know.
So we can understand what he's saying.
Sure.
Why do they need to change? That's really what we want to know.
If it's 1 per acre, it's 1 per acre.
Then why do they need to change if they already have it?
Different layouts, and the
Right.
applicant's gonna talk about
Yeah.
that in his presentation.
The applicant has a few different layouts that they're gonna kind of go over and share with you guys that have more specifics. They can answer the questions about why they're changing and what they hope to accomplish by changing from the current zoning district, which has certain standards, to their plan development, which they're negotiating to have different standards to allow them, ideally in their minds, to provide a better product at the end of the day. But that's all stuff that they will talk with you guys about. I'm just kind of going over the highlights and general information. They'll get into all the specifics.
Did you say the acreage of the property that's buildable in that? Sorry,
I think it's, yeah, it is a change to the, on the notice that you guys all got, it said that they want to do 17 lots.
The buildable acreage area.
Right, yes, I believe that has gone down slightly, so now it's 16.
So 16 acres.
Somewhere around that, I'm sure the applicant can give you an exact number, but anyways, back to process. So, right now, as I said, they're not proposing any changes to future land use, so that's all taken care of. They're still keeping their rural settlement 1-to-1. We're in the land use application stage right now. We're having this community meeting. It's not a required part of the process, but the commissioners asked for it, so that's why we're here. After this, they will still continue to go through rounds of staff review on our project. Once all staff have kind of gone through the process and signed off on everything, then we will move into the DRC meeting. It's not a public hearing, but it is a sunshine meeting, and that body makes a recommendation on the project. They don't decide anything, they just make a recommendation.
What does DRC stand for?
Oh, Development Review Committee. Sorry. DRC stands for Development Review Committee. And after that, then we move into the public hearing part of the process. So after DRC, it will get scheduled for the Planning and Zoning Commission, PZC. That is a public hearing, so you guys will all get notices about that meeting. Anybody who got the flyer will get a notice about that meeting. And that meeting will happen, and then it will make another recommendation. And then after that, you go to the Board of County Commissioners, where they make a final decision, and that is also, again, a public hearing, which you guys will all be noticed about.
So each one of those meetings will be discussed.
So the planning and zoning, yeah, the planning and zoning and the Board of County Commissioner meetings are both public hearings, which you can attend and speak at if you wish.
Those are all downtown, aren't they?
Yes.
Orange County Administration Building, 201 South Roslyn Avenue.
Yeah, it's impossible to get there sometimes.
So, good news.
We have more, do we have
Tonight
more?
is not the only opportunity for public comment. As Mike mentioned, we do have the formal public hearings. If you are able to make those hearings, terrific. We would love to see you there. You'll have an opportunity to comment, but that is also not your only opportunity for comment. As these applications going through the process, on this notice, you have Mike's email and phone number. I'll also have a number of cards here. Send us an email, phone call. We will also provide you contact information for the District Commissioner's Office. Anything we receive throughout this process, saved into the public record, is summarized when these cases go forward to the public hearing. So even if you aren't able to attend in person, someone wasn't able to come tonight, can't come to the public hearings, you will still have an opportunity to provide your comment and be heard on this case.
Thank you.
Yeah, just to briefly mention, at the District Commissioner's Office, the email address is district1@ocfl.net. So pretty easy.
All right.
And if I could really quickly, sorry, I'm Drew from Commissioner Wilson's office. Thanks. So we're here, Alexis and I, from the staff. Unfortunately, Commissioner Wilson couldn't be here. She had a death in the family this week. but we're going to hear your feedback firsthand. Still, please email us, but we always recommend to send it to the other districts as well, because they all have a vote on this at the end of the day too. So it's the same type of emails, District 2 at OCFL, District 3, District 4, 5, and 6. Because it's an entire board that ends up seeing this at the end of the process. And also, I film these meetings, so she'll be able to see everything that happens at this meeting. Our board appointees at the PZC, which it's going to that board before it's going to the county commissioners, they'll be able to see it as well. So yeah, thank you.
All right, so now I'm going to let the applicant have a little short presentation, and then they're going to give it to you and give you a little bit more specifics on what's actually being proposed and show you some concept plans for the site.
Thank you. My name is George Kramer. I'm a planner and actually serve as president of Inspire. Here today on behalf of the Roper family, and I want to start with that. I think it's important. Some of you may have seen some of the survey stakes and the wetland delineations going on, and so a lot of questions of what's going on. Those are all paid for by the Roper family. This is part of the planning process that they have undertaken. So I want to go through just a brief overview of the property, talk about why we're here. I'm going to show some concepts, none of which have been submitted to the county. It's just some internal thought processes. I would ask that y'all don't, again, take them for what we're offering them as, sketches that we've done in our office and shown to the Roper family about, what is allowed within this future land use designation and the zoning. It's been said a few times, but I'm going to repeat it again. This is not a request to increase density. There are 16 homes allowed on this property by right, by the comprehensive plan, and by the existing zoning as well. We're not asking to change that, so nothing we're going to talk about today. It's just about what do the 16 homes look like. I apologize, the lighting in here isn't great, so this historic aerial that I pulled is not going to have the impact. But this is an aerial, I think as far back as Alex could pull, but from 1969. The Ropers actually purchased the property in 1943. So if you could see this aerial, you would see there are very few home sites. There are a lot more citrus trees that are there today. What is not surprising to anyone in this room is that most of the properties along Lake Butler are already developed. They're allotted out in there. So this is kind of one last remaining piece with access to Lake Butler. And again, I talked about the fact that we're working for the Roper family, and I am privileged to have had a long relationship going back close to 10 years working on different properties they have. They care about this community. That's been shown from the Garden Theater to the YMCA and countless other things. They don't want to just sell and develop the property, 16 home sites. They're wanting to be a little more thoughtful about it. And that's why they asked us to go through. We submitted the zoning application on behalf of the family because that's the only way that we can have a discussion on what the home sites would look like. It has to go through this process of doing anything other than just a standard 1 acre lot, 16 1 acre lots. There was some discussion. Our original application showed 17 units, and that is because based on the information we had, there were just over 17 developable acres. When we sent environmental professionals out to look at the site, that developable acreage was decreased. It was decreased by 2 reasons. One, there were slightly more wetlands on the site than were originally anticipated. The other thing, for those of you who live on the lake, you do realize that there is shoreline erosion that occurs. And so between those 2 factors, the total developable, and when we say developable, we're talking about not wet, so not underwater, not a wetland, 16.83. So just under 17. If it was over 17, it would be allowed for 17 units, but because it's under 17, we're talking about 16. And we already talked through the future land use, and so I'll just go over that quickly, but again, that rural settlement that you see all surrounding this area caps the density at 1 unit per acre. That's not being changed. And then this rural country estate district, again, that speaks to minimum lot sizes. And so we're asking for the rezoning to be able to look at some different concepts. So again, we're talking about 16 new home sites and talking about flexibility for the lot size. So I'm gonna go through some concepts, and this is the actual submittal that we submitted initially. And what I'd ask to just kind of focus on, and again, the concept here is if we look at 16 home sites that aren't 16 1-acre sites, they're still very large estate home sites around the perimeter of the property, what that would allow for is to provide some stormwater and some thoughtful open space with views to the lake. And, you know, I understand even though the property, you know, is under private ownership that, you know, neighbors do go on the Grove from time to time and to see some of those view sheds. That's an opportunity that could continue with the right layout. As mentioned, we submitted the application earlier this year. We received comments back from staff on May 21st. One of those comments was they wanted to see the formal wetland assessment, which again we've completed. And then also we're reassessing the plan, reducing some of those lots, and looking at revisions to site access. Because again, recognizing you know, it's not ideal to have a lot of driveway curb cuts along Lake Butler here. And so looking at that. So again, these are not proposed concepts. These haven't been submitted, but this is just looking, and this is actually an older concept. You can see because there's actually more than 16 lots on here, but just again, one concept that would lay that out. This concept here maximizes the number of, you know, lakefront lots there. Another concept, and this is more, the next two are more consistently aligned with the application. Again, seeing by putting that in and having some open space out too. So we do still have 3 more traditional lakefront lots, but what this would do for the remaining lots is have those fronting on the green space, you know, with that open area.
Can you just, what size lots in this rendering, understanding that it's just rendering, what,
Yeah.
like, 3 through 15 would be approximately what size?
So, and Alex, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that the lot, all of these are minimum 100 feet in width. I think most of them are before.
See it very well. I'm the yellow lot.
Yeah, well, that's talking about the overall lot size between a third and 0.6 acre lots
So the yellow.
currently on this. So there's a range of sizes, but I think they're over 100, and I think the depth is like 160 on these lots across here. And then, you know, again, per the county standard, the lakefront lots are 1 acre in size. So there's a question about the property to the left. So this is predominantly wetlands. So this is owned by the Roper family. There's a small amount of upland there, but it's not being proposed. There's no plan on this property now because of the wetlands. And again, this is another concept and probably the most extreme example, having very small lots and maximizing the green space. Again, none of these have been submitted. These are not being proposed. This is just part of the planning process, again, with the big idea of, you know, how can we continue to be in keeping with the character, not change the density, still have large, nice homes as is the standard in this neighborhood, but maintain, you know, some common space here and those view sheds to the lake. So I know you have a lot of questions and maybe more for the county staff than me, but I'm happy to answer any specific questions that folks have. Again, I appreciate your time. I appreciate you coming out tonight, so thank you.
All right, folks, we're going to open up that formal question and answer and ask everyone to line up. Right here, miss. You're up first.
Well, I would like to know, have you done any traffic studies of how much added traffic is going to be added coming in our living space?
We have not done any traffic studies because we're talking about 16 units that is already approved for the property, so that's not going to change. There's no change in traffic from a lot size. The traffic generation is based on the number of units. So there's 16 units that are allowed on the property. We're talking about 16 units, so obviously there will be additional traffic when 16 homes are built, but those 16 homes are already allowed on the property.
Just to, the same question, would there be changes to the road west Lake Butler itself, widened, repaved, gutters, sidewalks, curbs, anything added, since you're adding more driveways that are directly?
So, I will tell you at this time, we have not proposed any changes to the road. The question is regarding, are there any proposed road improvements along with it? So I'll hand to the county to answer that, and that is something that's evaluated with it. We haven't proposed anything at this time.
And sidewalks?
So as Mike mentioned, there is a formal technical review process that any development application goes through. Right now, we are in the very, very early stages of the review process, right? If everything starts with land use, very high level, generally what you can do, generally how much of it. Next step down, you get the zoning, it's a little more specific uses, and then the development standards of how those things can be built. It's really not until the much later process, till they really start getting into those engineering subdivision plans, where they're submitting very technical, plans to the county, and, we do have traffic engineering, transportation, stormwater folks. They're going to be looking at that, and just like any other development application, they're going to have to meet all county, state, federal regulations when it comes to what they can and can't do. So if there is a process where they're tripping a certain trip threshold in transportation trips, they may have to do some road improvements. We can't answer that question at this stage because, again, this approval, whether or not the board approves it, does not give them approval to go in and start moving dirt. There's still numerous steps they would have to go through before we really get into those kind of very specific engineering level details. I can tell you that analyses are done and that there is nothing in this application that exempts them from having to go through those standard processes. We just don't have those specific details of are they going to be doing X, Y, or Z very specific improvements to a particular road or not.
Yeah, I have a bunch of comments actually. One is that there is a huge difference between having 16 or 17 one-acre estates with an estate-size home, with an estate-size lot. And theoretically, you could take this to an extreme. You could use, according to what you're talking about with this PD designation, you can have 17.5 acres, of which 1/2 acre has 13 townhouses, and then the rest of it has those nice big 3 houses because they're along the lake. So I think that would make it a very different kind of group of people being around here as opposed to a 1-acre estate, each person having a 1-acre estate. Other questions I have, is this going to be a gated community or not?
So let me answer the first question. The first question was regarding, smaller lots, you squeeze a bunch of townhouses on there. That's one of those zoning use things. Application does not allow townhouses. They are asking for 16 single-family detached homes.
Of what size? 2,000 square feet, 1,200, 1,500, 800?
I'll let the applicant say. I don't know if they have those details. I think those are still some of the things they're looking at, but does not give them, as we mentioned, more units. 5 townhouses are 5 units. 5 single-family homes, 5 units.
At least this year.
No. They would have to come back through this process.
Exactly.
They would have to apply and change future land use, and I tell you, there is no available future land use they can ask for that many. They are already at their maximum density. There's nothing higher that they can ask for under the county's regulations.
Well, I have more, so go ahead.
I'll let George speak to.
So again, the lots that were shown, I'll focus on concept B. Those are larger lots.
Can you put one of those up rather than?
Could you put up that fee? Please. Thank you. How much?
So these are large. Here's the economic reality that I probably don't need to share with this room, but I will anyway. Expensive homes are going to be built here, whether they're on 1-acre lots or whether they're on, lots that are shown here that are like 100 by 160, which is not a small lot. That's just the economics of it. Now, Is the approvals from Orange County going to require builders to put a large home on it? Probably not. But just the economic reality is no one's going to build a 2,000 square foot home on this property.
Do any of those other houses have any type of lake access or anything? Just because you have the map up.
So again, the thought behind this concept, and I guess it depends on what your definition of access is that there's view sheds to the water. There might be one kind of common dock space that everyone could go out to. But again, you're limited to private edge frontage to those 3 lots in teal in this concept.
So I'm thinking like, is there a potential for a community boat ramp or something like that?
They haven't
You said community dock already.
Is that,
But not a
is that a
ramp.
walking?
Community,
small?
but is it community or is it 16 house access? That's a detail that would need to be worked out.
Well, why don't we get a guarantee of that before we actually consider approving it? You need to give us some guarantees about some stuff. You're going to interrupt me all day?
No, I'm just trying to provide a little clarification that I think might have missed. So, important consideration here. When this application gets to the board, their choices are not just approve or deny. The board does have the ability to say approve, say that this could be the right choice for this property, the right zoning, but add certain conditions. Yep. Sometimes that's lot sizes, sometimes that's some extra landscaping, buffering, sometimes that's minimum home sizes, sometimes that's, hey, these folks can't even look at the lake. That's a little bit of an extreme one, but I'm just trying to give some general examples. And that's one of the reasons why we have these communities, so staff and the commissioners can hear the concerns of the community, and we can have this discussion with the applicant as we're going through the process.
May I ask that you save all your responses until the end of this conversation?
You got it, sir.
Thank you. All right. Again, I asked, is this going to be a gated community or not?
We have not made that designation.
All right. And so it also looks as though lots 3, 4, 5, and 6 could theoretically be backing directly onto Lake Butler Road. And I don't know if that's a risk for car accidents or backing into public roads where people are normally driving like 45, 50 miles an hour through there.
So if I could clarify to that question, it's hard to see in this concept, but those lots are not backing directly onto Lake Butler Road. There's actually a buffered access driveway and it's screened through landscaping in between. So part of the county comments was we wanted to limit the access on Lake Butler Road. So this concept reflects that. They're not backed up to Lake Butler.
So they're going on Summerport Beach, what?
There's what are the other?
So Summerport Lane, there was a less of an issue because of the character of Summerport Lane about the driveway cuts on Summerport Lane. So those, in this concept, those driveways are proposed along.
Are you guys aware? I mean, I know you talked that Summerport Lane is you can't get 2 cars up there. You can't do garbage trucks. You can't do deliveries. You can't walk on there. And I'm just shocked by this. No, I got that.
To change the street.
It's a horse and buggy road.
All right, so let me go down my list though. Now, right now, people going down West Lake Butler Road from McKinnon, they're revving, they're going 55, 60 miles an hour down there. There are no speed bumps, no stop signs, no speed limit. The only stop sign existing there at all is at McKinnon and West Lake Butler Road. And as soon as they get past that, it's a racetrack. And I don't know whether or not the county's going to put speed bumps, speed limits, street lights or anything like that along there, or multiple stop signs to make it so that these people do not drive like maniacs, especially now there's going to be a community with houses and children running around there.
Yes.
Also, what about public space? Is there going to be parking for this access to water, or is everybody going to be parking illegally, or are we going to be able to get in and just take up the street along 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, all those houses, and just everybody's going to park along there, squeeze in between so we can get to that water, and because it's public access, but again, it doesn't say whether it's access to public or just to the community members.
So what I would say is that the distinction between if it is a private and you control the access, it's going to be treated differently than if there's a conversation about creating a public park space, right? It is all different. Right now, there's no option to do any of that if we don't submit the application. So this starts the process and we can have the conversation. You know, it's helpful to hear from the community if you say, absolutely don't make it public access because we don't want, you know, we don't want the additional traffic
Did you think
there.
about this before you came here today? Did you think about that question? Because I'm sure.
We thought about it extensively, but this is not the time that we need to answer that question before
All right. Thank you.
this is part of the conversation.
Yeah, all right. Now, also, changing this designation from a rural settlement, or current zoning, RCE, to PD, I don't know whether the people know this, but when you have an RCE, the Residential Country Estate District, you're not allowed to rent your home for less than a 6 to 12 month lease. However, if you're a PD district, you're allowed to have like Airbnb, rent it for the weekend. We don't know, it's a family of 19 coming here for a weekend, having a good old time, and you're allowed to do that when you have a PD designation unless there is a guarantee. Is this going to be an HOA community or not?
Probably will be.
So again, unless it's actually guaranteed that it's in there, we're going to have transients just being able to spend the weekend, spend a couple days. Let's drive around other neighborhoods and see what's going on nearby. So I think that that's another issue. Also, right now, as the access stands, West Lake Butler Road only has one sidewalk. Are they going to put a bike path? Are they going to have another bike trail or something on the other side of the street? Are we going to have street lights suddenly on that street? Is there something that's going to be offered to this community that would add value instead of just adding houses? So, also, the outline that you have there, you have a cutout on the upper left-hand corner. What is that cutout? Because on the other drawing, that's included in your change of the development. So which is going to change, that diagram or what you've drawn there with the street?
Are you referring to the wetland area?
Whatever, it's different. The outline is different.
I'm just trying to make sure I understand your question. Are you
Well,
referring to
let me
this?
talk about
Are you referring to this area here?
Yeah.
Okay. So, as I stated earlier, we had the environmental consultant out to do wetland delineations. This portion of the property is primarily wetland, and so therefore it's outside of the concept at this point. So, you know, we originally submitted, we were under the impression that there were more uplands in this area than there actually were. So the initial submittal had that area included, the revised submittal will not.
All right, I won't be much longer, swear to God, but I think I've covered a lot of questions that people might have had already. Is that going to be fenced off? Is it going to be protected? Are there going to be wild animals in there now suddenly right across the street from lot number 3 and some fish are going to get eaten up by something because you didn't put up a fence or a barrier or whatever there? Because currently right now, nobody's living there. All right, so that's another question I had. What kind of amenities were you planning on having in there? Are they only for the people who live in that community, or are the amenities like little playgrounds, play areas, whatever, a beach or something like that, or again, a boat access? And if there is any of that, where do people park if they want to visit that area? So, now, and please, hang on just a second. And let's see, so again, the density is changed as far as the acreage per house because you're adding a bunch of stuff, and whatever it is not going to be the residential country estate 1 acre per home. It will be less on the average. You'll have nice 3 big homes. I guess, I don't know who's lucky enough to live there, but then the rest will be something else. The other thing was, you've already owned the property and all that kind of stuff since 1943, and that's it. Thank you for your time.
Great job.
All right, I think you did answer some, but I mean, I guess just the first question a lot of people have is, what's the opposition to developing it as currently zoned?
So I don't know that there is. The question is, why not just develop it at 1 acre lots? And I go back to the fact that, and I've been privileged to work with the Roper family. They want to explore if there's a better option than just the 1 acre. And to be clear, they have not made the decision that they want to do anything different than 1 acre lots. But putting this application in was a requirement to even explore the option.
And again, I'm probably one of the, as a person who probably has the only true front house on, that's not true, there's a few of us, but on Summerport Lane, I always knew this would be developed, but I'm kind of shocked at the proposal in terms of the volume of traffic and density you have again on Summerport Lane.
Yes.
That road cannot, well, I'm sure it could, because it's probably been done in the past, but that road is not made to have multiple homes. I assume these people are going to have boats, trailers, etc. It's just not going to be safe. I don't understand. I mean, I'm not sure. Again, I hear issues with Westlake Butler. I'm not sure why not an entry off of Westlake Butler, throw a stop sign up for traffic, and you have everybody enter in and out of a main artery, not some, in essence, dirt road. So that's really it. That's my comments. I don't know if you have any thoughts.
That curve right by lot 2, that's where all the people, they come crashing right through into that property. And it happens like once a year. Somebody comes around that corner too fast and they can't negotiate the turn, and they just crash right through the fence. And that happens. It's happened multiple times. So unless they put some kind of speed mitigation on that curve, there could be potential problems. Just for future reference, when you go back.
But I can't do that. All right, let's move on. Ms. Keith, you've been waiting very patiently. Thank you very much.
Thank you. First, I just want to say that I understand that the Roper family has been in the area for a very long time. They're very invested in the community, so we appreciate their sensitivity as we develop this area. I think most of us knew this would not stay an abandoned orange grove, but I think the emotion and the feeling, at least in the room, I think for me, is that we chose this area because of the rural character of the neighborhoods in this area. And will the new development maintain that character? And also, as people have mentioned, Westlake Butler, if you've ever driven it, it's an extremely dangerous double S curve. Our neighborhood has tried to get speed bumps installed in front of our neighborhood because of the speeding, because of the accidents, because of dogs and danger and things. And I understand that there's multiple renderings here. I think what a lot of people, myself, were trying to understand coming to this meeting was, is it necessary to remove the country rural estate designation? And from what you've said, I can see your thought process is it gives you more flexibility to develop. Like maybe you can include green space, you can do your stormwater retention, you can kind of play with your layout to adjust those things. And that is definitely appreciated. What I think the concern level for me is that we've been in many of these meetings with Orange County before, and we've heard a lot of promises from developers, and not that you represent necessarily a developer, family personally, but then those don't come to fruition, and we're kind of left with whatever actually gets developed. And so I think a lot of people are nervous to remove the country rural estate designation or have that removed by the county and open it up to the PD zoning so that there's a lot more flexibility. But then once that's done, once that process approval has been, accomplished, there's no going back to, we would like it to be country rural estate. We would like it to preserve that character. We'd like it to have low density. We'd like to have safe roads. You can't go back on that once that zoning is approved. So I think I'm saying that's my concern. Maybe that's the concern of some other neighbors. I have another question also, and we can speak their answer to that.
Well, I guess, so I certainly appreciate the importance of retaining community character. And again, that's not the intent. I think, you can still have estate homes that are not on 1 acre lots. And just to be clear, I mean, there is no increase in density. It is 16 units. So really all we're talking about is the lot sizes. No, you're shaking your arm, but no.
What are
Comprehensive
the- what
plan
are-
caps at 16 units.
What are the dimensions of each lot going to be?
So we can talk about that, but what I'm saying is there's still going to be 16 homes. Regardless of the size of the lot, there's only 16 homes.
9, 10, 11, and 12 are not going to be the same density as 1 acre per lot. It is not. It's going to be 4 houses per acre.
Absolutely not, sir. Cannot put 4 houses on 1 home. That is multifamily development.
No,
Not allowed on 1 lot.
9, 10, 11, and
Yep.
12, add
On
up the area.
9, you get 1
divide by
home.
4.
10, you get 1 home. 11, you get 1 home. That's it.
Oh, now we hear your side of this. Oh, interesting, isn't it? Advocating,
So,
huh?
just so we're saying the same thing, the project site is 16.89 acres and there's 16 homes. Okay, so the density is not changing.
We got it. Most of us got it.
Thank you, and we appreciate that. Again, the object is not to be hostile, it's to understand that, just to let, there's a lot of emotion, because I think there's a lot of people here who've lived in the communities for a very long time, close to as long as the Ropers have been there and invested in that property, so they care about the community a great deal. You can see that with the emotion and the passion. But I think maybe my concern with that, we understand there's 16 units. Will those 16 units resemble some of the newer developments across the street in our Windermere rural area settlement still, that look more like a summer port, or like, you can put your hand out the window and touch, even though it's a large 4,000, 5,000 square foot home, an estate style home, are they really close to one another? Are they tightly packed in some of these smaller lots? Just, what is the spacing going to be? That would be my concerns. And I know that you can't really address that right now because you don't have rendering, so I'm not going to take any more time with that. My other question is, has there been a wildlife study? This wetland area that's represented here is a huge wildlife crossing into this inlet for Lake Butler. Every single animal on the planet that lives in the Florida environment crosses that area. There's a gopher tortoise burrow on the corner here. And if not, are those studies going to be done at some point?
I can tell you 100%, yes, they will. Those are some of those local, state, federal regulations that I mentioned. Anything that develops has to go through that same process. So it might not be at this stage, but I can tell you at some point in the process, yes, those studies will be required, and if something needs to be mitigated, there is a process for that. I can't tell you the stage, but I can assure you there is a process, and nothing with this request changes. They're not asking for any exemptions, any ways around the standard processes. They apply to all those state, local, federal regulations, I can speak, just like everybody else would and does.
Thank you. A couple things that I see, correct me if I'm wrong. Number one, the big change from the current zoning to the PD zoning is obviously if you had to stick with the current zoning, yeah, I get it, you could still do 6 homes there. But they'll all be on an acre, and only 2 or 3 potentially would have access to Lake Butler. I'm concerned because Lake Butler, we moved there because of its pristine nature. The way that slopes, I'm assuming they're all on-lot sewage systems as well, right? Or are you gonna have a grinder pump and a force main out in your tank? It's community sewage or it's on-lot?
That's still working out.
Well, you've had to have looked at it
Same
before,
rules
though.
as the neighbors.
I understand, but you had to have looked at it as the elevation, putting in a pump station, where's the nearest sewage, where can we tap in? You had to look at that, right? Or are they all on lot? Here's my concern. If they're all on lot, the way that slopes is the same way that the way the groundwater is. If you have 16 on-lot sewages, it's all heading towards Summerport Lane. Anybody that lives on Summerport Lane, I believe, they all have their own wells. So now you got, not only is Lake Butler challenged, now you got their wells challenged, number one. Number two, if you had to draw 16 without the PD, arrangement, you couldn't have a community boat dock. That's another thing that's painful because, as you can tell, Lake Butler is stressed as it is. If you're putting a community thing there, I would vote against the PD because we don't want a community dock there. There's already so much noise. I live right on the corner there. I can hear all the noise and the music when they're playing their music in Tilden Grove. It carries across there. And so you got a noise issue, you heard a wildlife issue, we got red-tailed hawk everywhere in our trees nesting, so that's an issue. But now if it's on-lot sewage, it's gonna affect people's wells that live on Summerport, it will. And so that's a problem. So there's a reason to not give the PD, I get it, 16 equals 16, and it does. But it doesn't have to have 16 that all have access to a public dock, maybe a public ramp, maybe a dock that everybody can use in this community. And now you got 16 boats out there, and that's what stresses Lake Butler. We all moved there because you can see to the bottom of that. Adding 16 like that, especially if you're not gonna take forced main sewage, you're gonna dump it on those lots, is a problem.
So, appreciate your concern. If I could just go back to the previous speaker's question. And I go back to the process, right? We submit an application so that we can start to have the discussion with the community, okay? Because that drives, as the county staff pointed out, the PD process, one of the advantages is all of those issues can be discussed and documented as part of the agreement. So we can have the discussion. So again, why I'm not trying to be cagey about whether it's public or private. That's a community conversation, right? If the community says, no, we don't want any public access because we don't want a community dock and we don't want people driving to this park, take that under consideration. On the flip side, if the community says, I go out and walk around the orange groves now and I love that view and I want to see it, that makes a difference, right? So that's part of the process to have this conversation. As it relates to the character and what this looks like, it's very difficult, and we talk about in my industry all the time, when you're looking at two-dimension, it's really hard to understand what that looks like. As we advance through this process, if the Roper family wants to even continue to look at this, and again, they may want to just sell the property in 1 acre lots, and that may be the result of all of this. But if this plan were to, again, if just hypothetically, if this were to continue to be advanced, we could put 3-dimension. You can see the home sizes on there and the distance between these are actually very large lots. These would, again, the type of homes that are going to get built here, and again, they're going to be nicer than the homes that are there because that's just the way the real estate market is right now.
So the Roper family still owns the property?
Yes.
Okay, that makes sense.
Okay, so I do have several questions. One of my questions refers to the animals and stuff.
Yeah, I hear you.
The Florida gopher turtles and the sand skanks are very prevalent for protected species in this area. And one, has that land been tested to see? I know that you already said that there were gophers on there, Florida gophers. So when you say mitigate, what are you going to do? Relocate them to somewhere else?
That is the standard mitigation process for construction.
That's all regulated by the state, couldn't tell you, not our level of authority.
It says move them as standard mitigation, which it's not, that is a species that is okay to move right now according to this.
And also, I know that Barb Roper, she was a very avid bird watcher, and they had several bird stands. I do know that on the corner of the property, the eagles are still there. I don't know if the ospreys have run them off, but I have seen eagles in the area on that. So that's also something to consider on that. Another thing that I am concerned about is that this is all right now on Orange Grove. Very sandy soil, it's all sand, it's wonderful drainage into the aquifer, wonderful filtration into the aquifer. When you come over and put topsoil in there, fill dirt, roofs, concrete, that drainage is all going to disappear. That water is still going to come. Where's all the water going to go? I know that also because that property is a much higher elevation than all the homes in Summerport Lane, right there. So it's already high. When you bring in all that fill dirt, all that topsoil, that elevation is going to increase, which is just going to make that water go down into the homes. And I know that it goes into the lake, it also goes into the homes. I mean, the homes down on Summerport Lane, you're going to start seeing some land erosion from all that water coming down. I guarantee you, no matter what we try to do to mitigate it, water finds the least path of resistance, and draining towards the lake, wherever it's going to drain, that's the least path of resistance on that. So that's something to consider. When you look at, if they really wanted to keep it, I know you keep saying it's like rural country estate 1-1. If you really wanted to keep it that way, why change it to a planned zoning? With a planned zoning, you do have more of a leeway, more of a freeway to change the density. Now the density, okay, you might have 16 homes, but the lot sizes are going to be a lot smaller, therefore you can put the 16 homes in there. That's a very odd shaped lot. And if you did like 1 acre, have you done a study if you did just 1 acre on this without, and using the same plot size that the rural county estate 1-1 calls for? How many homes can you get on there?
Yeah, what would that look like?
That's a good question. Can we see your development of 16?
Can you go to the previous plan, concept A?
So we do not have a concept that shows the 1 acre lots from the country estate. There was a previous, it did have additional lots, but they weren't all 1 acre. This one here.
You wouldn't get 16 based on that. If you had to draw, I would like it to draw 16 full acre lots on there, you'd probably be half of that.
That's why you're doing it.
Oh, from the street.
Just based on the shape, your wetlands are already out of picture. Just based on the shape, you wouldn't get 16. You wouldn't have the access, ingress, egress to it.
So we haven't a lot of
I sold it one at a time there, we did the stormwater retention mitigation that we basing on.
You'd have 16 different, the question about stormwater, if it was sold to 1 acre lots, depending on how that was done, if it was sold off one lot at a time, you'd have 16 different stormwater assessments as opposed to one master plan.
Another thing that I have a concern about is the Butler Lake is a outstanding waterway, and so it is protected on that. I know that Tilden's Grove, which is probably like a 1.5 mile away, is another rural country estates 1-1. They had to do swells all around the property in order to mitigate and that was once an orange grove. They had to put all the swells, and it had to go according to the St. John's Water Management Company. And those swells have to be maintained to this day, so that they're trying everything that they can do to not pollute the waterway. I don't see where a whole lot of swells are around here to protect the lake. Do you have swells in there, and are you working with St. John's Water Management Company or the Borough Management Company?
If I could, and maybe I just go back to the historic aerial, just might be helpful. I mean, there were a lot of orange groves all through here, right? This is back 20 plus years after the Ropers bought the property. Stormwater is an important issue. Listed species are an important issue. Keeping the integrity of Lake Butler is an important issue. Hopefully it was an important issue when all the other homes in this area were being developed. I can tell you that the standards are more strict now than when those other homes were developed. And all of those things, again, if we go through and advance in this process, if the family decides to move forward, finalizing this application, if they decide to wait 5 years from now and do a different application, it's going to have to go through all of those state, so there's local, there's the county processes, there's state, and even sometimes federal processes they need to go through. And those are all going to be addressed at the appropriate time.
Can you change the C, please? Site C. can you take that off the board and take that off your consideration? And just rule it out right now, today, just say no.
So again, none of these concepts have been submitted. What I will tell you is that some of the comments we've already received from Orange County make this plan not viable. So in that regard, yeah, we can take it off.
My name's Jay Williams. Patty and I live at 12412 Summerport Lane. And we've got some serious concerns. Summerport Beach is a neighborhood designated in Orange County since the mid-1940s, about the time that the Ropers bought that property. And each of these concepts, the impact on Summerport Lane and Summerport Beachway, it all lands there. Here.
That's not a pointer. Yeah. You have a laser?
For all of these lots, there are no neighbors that are going to be impacted on this side. Starting at lot 7, going down to lot 16, all of the impact falls on Summerport Beachway and Summerport Lane.
Yes, sir, yes.
These houses along here were all fish camps. They were fish camp houses. For people who lived in Winter Garden, this is where they come and go fishing. Our house, the house that we live in, was built in 1945. With all the impact on Summerport Lane, that will destroy property values on Summerport Lane.
Not just the lane, but the water. You guys all have wells down there, don't you?
Most have wells. There is some city water down there
You got
now.
all that sewage that's gonna drain right to there.
Everybody does have septic.
You have to-
Right. Well, city water is provided, but everybody has septic. And I'll tell you, by the time this proposal gets to the Environmental Protection Division, which is one of the hoops that they have to jump through, there's going to be a lot of heartburn at EPD about all of these septic drain fields that somebody mentioned, the slope of the land there. It's all going to find its way down to Lake Butler. And I'm looking at the impact. Am I being selfish because I live on Summerport Lane?
No.
All of the impact is on these houses here. There's 7 lots along here, and they're taking all the brunt of
There's
this.
10 on there, Jay. From 7 to 16, there's 10 lots on there.
Right, I'm talking about the existing households. And including Barbara's house. And this is just, I don't know what the answer is. There's no way to stop progress. Something is going to be built there.
16 homes on 1 acre lots, that's what needs to be built there. And you wouldn't fit 16. I've done it before in my lifetime, many times. You'd get maybe 8, maybe 9 lots out of there looking at that right now. That's all you're gonna get. So you just took, if whatever they sell for, you just cut their profits in half. That's what you'd be drawn there. That's the least amount of impact. Even though it can hold 16, it won't be able to be drawn at 16. That's what they should be made to do. When you compare, nobody can make a decision at the county to what will be without comparing it to what it has to be. They should be made to draw a plan with the 16 lots, and let's see that merge.
I would just point out that we have not lotted this out, but if whoever you're working with can only show 8 lots on there, I can suggest some other people to work with. Because let's not leave this room thinking that, there's 8 homes here. Because that's not what we're talking about today. So just, look, with all due respect, I just don't want everybody to leave this room thinking that there's gonna be 8 1 acre lots here. 'Cause
Well, then
that's not
draw
the
it,
case.
show it.
at the beginning of your presentation, you used the word thoughtful.
Yeah. Guess not.
All right, so it does appear the time has gotten a little bit away from us. Turns out it is 7 o'clock, so the school will be kicking us out. I want to thank you all. This is exactly why we have these meetings. This has been an excellent start to the conversation. Sir, if you come up here real fast, we'll get you squeezed in really, really fast. Come on, sir. Come on up. But really fast. Again, this is the beginning of the conversation. We encourage you to continue to call, email, reach out to county staff, your commissioners, so we can continue to have this conversation as this request, this application moves through the process. Again, thank you all so much for coming out tonight. I think we do have one last comment we're going to squeeze in.
Are we going to have any differences here about the proposal, or is this the only one?
Question is there going to be another community meeting? There are no, fun fact, standard rules, regulations in the county's comprehensive plan or code that regulate when a community meeting has to happen. They are at the discretion of your district commissioner. So please reach out to your district commissioner, Nicole Wilson. If she asks staff to have another community meeting, we will have another community meeting on this application.
Real quick, how many in this room are for this? As it stands now, what we've seen? How many are opposed to it? Enough said.
All right, well, as we mentioned, the point of tonight is not to make a decision. We're not having a vote. We are starting a conversation. Again, yeah, we do have to start closing up, but thank you all again so much. Again, anyone who's not signed in, please make sure we have the contact information.